everyone, it's Hailey, and today I wanted to share what my book collection would look like if I weren't a booktuber. This video is actually inspired by something that went around the beauty community a while ago, I believe, but I just kind of started watching beauty videos again, and just a select few people. But one of my favorite videos to watch for some reason is what someone's makeup collection would look like if they weren't a beauty guru. I just love it. Like, to me, it means those are the best of the best for products, and I thought it would be really fun to try and implement that idea into the book community. So realistically, because I am not a minimalist, I am more of a maximalist, I would still probably have like nearly the amount of books that I have right now if I weren't a booktuber. But that being said, a lot of books get sent to me, and I actually probably wouldn't have as many. I would still have a lot, but I wouldn't have as many as I do now. So the idea behind this is that I am going to be picking 3 books, just 3, from all of my favorite genres. So really the only genres that I have on my shelves. So for example, like, I don't have any thrillers, so I'm going to be skipping over that, but I will be picking 3 for contemporaries, historical fiction, fantasy, even sci-fi, like pretty much everything. And I am stressed. I have been pacing around my office trying to think of 3 books for certain genres, and oh my goodness, but how fun. Like, I am super pumped about this video, so let's just get into it. I'm going to start off real difficult and start with historical fiction, which is one of my ultimate favorite genres. So if I only had 3 historical fiction books, what would they be? Oh my goodness, I'm so stressed. I also didn't want to pre-plan for this video because I just wanted it to be like the first 3 that come to mind. So yikes, I know this doesn't matter, but it matters to me. I feel like I'm being mean to the other books. Oh my god. I have my 3 historical fictions here. For you, it's been 2 seconds. For me, it feels like it's been 12 million years. I had such a hard time because I love historical fiction. I have so many that have had such a deep impact on me, but I did narrow it down to 3, and I'm still not fully happy with it because I would like to have so many more. But I will start off with the most obvious one. So The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This would be in my book collection no matter what because it is my favorite book of all time. I adore this story. There's just something about it that really found its way into my heart and is a book that I keep coming back to as one of the most impactful books I've ever read. This is a World War II historical fiction, and it's narrated by death, and you are following this young girl in a time where death is just surrounding her. Everything in her life has been completely upended. It's just heartbreaking, but so beautiful. Also, a lot of you guys always apologize to me about not liking this book, and you don't need to apologize. Like, I understand no book is for everyone. I feel like everyone reads a different book even when you're reading the same book, if that makes sense. But especially this one, not everyone meshes well with the narration of it, and that's totally fine. I have no problem with it. The second historical fiction that I decided to keep is Lovely War by Julie Berry. This was just such an impactful read to me. I loved the love story of it. It was a beautiful romance, and it's actually 2 love stories that are narrated by the Greek gods, and it is set during World War I. So it's just, I mean, you know it's going to be a tragedy, but it was so beautiful. I was really torn between this one and We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee, but I've talked about We Are Not Free so much recently that I decided to include this one. This one I feel like I haven't talked about as much this year, although I talked about it a ton in 2020, but it was literally so hard to narrow down. Like, I had to leave out so many books that are my favorites. That being said, the final book that I went with is another World War II historical fiction, which I feel like isn't all that surprising. I do tend to very much like find those fascinating, but that is The Nightingale. Oh, I don't even know what is that? Oh, it's my business card. But anyways, The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is an adult historical fiction, and it is following 2 sisters in Nazi-occupied France. So it follows them over the course of a very long period of time. It's also alternating between then and then like the 1970s or something, but it is such a beautiful story about these 2 sisters. So difficult to read, but it's incredible. Like, I just felt this book. I'm really sad though that there are only 3 because notable exceptions include We're Not Free by Tracy Chee, The Diviners by Libba Bray, The Girl in the Blue Coat by Monica Hesse, Wolf by Ryan Groudon, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like literally I could go on and on and on. I could literally have an entire video of just my book collection if it were historical fiction. Speaking of, I do plan on doing a historical fictions recommendations video very soon, so stay tuned for that. But I can't believe I was able to narrow it down to 3. I really didn't because I mentioned a lot more, but you get the point. The next genre that I wanted to talk about is contemporary. Contemporary is another one of my favorite genres. I just love realistic fiction, and I feel like contemporary is almost even harder than historical fiction because there's so many different ways that contemporary can go. You have more emotional and sad and impactful contemporaries. Then you have the lighthearted and fluffy romantic contemporaries. But I could do, you know, I could split it and have 3 that are more impactful and then 3 that are more light and fluffy, but I would like to try and challenge myself to keep it to just 3 contemporaries. I also totally forgot with historical fiction, literally anything by Bruce Petty is like, I cannot narrow historical fiction down. It is so hard. I'm so indecisive. And this video, while quite fun, is also very much stressful. I'm trying to find one more book, but I feel like there's like 12 that I could include. Yikes. So I have 4 books here, but there is an explanation for it. So the explanation, I'll just talk about that book first, but The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan does have a little bit of a magical realism element to it, which is why I wasn't sure if I wanted to include it for contemporary, but it's definitely a book that I would love to keep, even if I weren't a booktuber, because it is so beautiful. The writing is fantastic, and it is one of the best representations of mental health that I have ever personally read. I think the author did a great job of capturing that. It's a character who is dealing with the grief after losing her mother, who has died by suicide. So she goes to Taiwan, where her mother was from, and is learning more about her culture, meeting her grandparents for the first time, but she also believes that her mother has turned into a bird, so she is following the bird and what her mother wants her to do. So because there was a little bit of magic in here, I felt like I could still include it, kind of. The other 3 books that I have here, I just had to include The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I know this is like so cliche, but I honestly don't care. There was a while where I didn't mention this book in videos because I felt embarrassed, but I freaking loved this book. I read it so many times when I was in high school. It was one of the first books that I fell in love with. It's just, I love it. It's a beautiful but sad story. I love John Green's writing. Like, I don't really care anymore. I do love this book, and it's definitely one that I would still have if I weren't a booktuber, especially because I read it before I was a booktuber. Then we have one of my favorite books of last year, which is Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This is such a beautiful story following a trans boy who he is in the middle of this love triangle that he wasn't expecting, and he's going through a lot of self-discovery, trying to find out who he really is, what his gender identity is, and he feels like he is a part of too many minorities as he is a person of color and also trans. He just feels very left out from things. But this was such a beautiful story because it hit so many emotions. It was really fun and heartwarming, but at the same time, there was just so many deeper moments to it. So I just loved this book overall, and definitely one that I'm so glad to have read and would still want in my collection. Also, I'm so sorry. I've been filming all day, and the person above me has a rolly chair, and every time they roll, you can hear it, but I've had to stop so many times that the show must go on. And the final contemporary that I would be keeping is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. I feel like this doesn't even need an explanation. Angie Thomas is a fantastic writer, and this book was just absolutely the most powerful book I think I've ever read. It deals with the Black Lives Matter movement and police brutality at the forefront of it, and you follow Star, who has witnessed the murder of her best friend, or not her best friend, but a childhood friend, at the hands of a police officer. And she was the only witness of it, and he was unarmed, so she is faced with this decision of whether she wants to speak up or if she wants to stay quiet about things. So it's a very transformative read. It just will absolutely blow your mind. Definitely one that I love. Now, I know I said that I wasn't going to divide contemporary into sections, but I did want to separately talk about adult romance because to me that is a separate genre. So now I'm going to show you my 3 adult romances that I would keep. I can literally think of 3 just by Christina Lauren, right now, so this is gonna be hard. I literally hate this video so much. I love it, but I hate it. But I have 3 books here. I know there are so many that I'm leaving out, and I'm so sorry, but I did have to keep it to 3. So the first book is, I think, the most obvious, and that is the book that introduced me to adult romance as a whole, which is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. This is just adorable. I fell in love with the chemistry between these 2 characters, fell in love with their love story. It's like a friends to lovers, second chance romance thing. It's just amazing. Also, side note, I want to do some recommendations videos based on tropes, but what is the difference between second chance romance and friends to lovers? Because I feel like it's pretty much the same. I don't know how to divide those 2 recommendations videos because I feel like every book that's a second chance romance is also friends to lovers. So please let me know how I should divide that. Or if I guess I should just do like second chance romance and friends to lovers in one video. I don't know. But anyways, speaking of, next is another friends to lovers second chance romance story, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I was super torn between this one and Beach Read, which is her first adult romance novel, but this is the one I've read the most recently and I just loved it. Like, I feel like it's neck and neck with Beach Read. Either one of them I could definitely be happy with having in my smaller book collection, but I decided to go with this one because it is fresh in my mind as one that I love, but keep in mind it could be either of them. So this one deals with travel a lot, and you have this amazing chemistry between these 2 characters, and she really writes romances that hit a bunch of levels. I just love stories that have levels, I guess. So it is romantic and cute and sweet, but also very emotional at the same time. And finally is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is a fantastic male-male romance, and it follows the first son of the United States, of the President of the United States, and Prince Henry of Wales, and it's this enemies to lovers romance story that will just absolutely capture your heart. It definitely captured mine. Next, we will move on to, I'm gonna take a break from the harder genres and move on to sci-fi. So sci-fi isn't my favorite genre, but that being said, I do have some that I have enjoyed. I almost definitely am forgetting some, but these are the first 3 that came to mind. So first of all, we have Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is a fantastic sci-fi series that is not really something I would have thought that I loved. You follow a character who is outcast because her father betrayed their world, but she is still trying to become a pilot. She's trying to achieve her dreams even though she is facing every single obstacle, but has a very cool world that is just constantly at war, and it's kind of like technical, but it's very well explained. The action scenes are really fun, and there's also some fun relationships in here. Like, it's just a fantastic all-around sci-fi. Next is Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So this is a story that is unlike any other book that I've read. It's like a multimedia format told in case logs and surveillance footage and all of that stuff, and it deals with artificial intelligence. It's just a very, very cool story. That being said, not a fan of one of these authors, but I did still decide to include it because I feel like the other author, like, I don't think she has done anything wrong, so I wasn't really sure how to approach that. But since she is also an author on here, I did decide to include it. And finally is Invictus by Ryan Groden. I did have to include at least one Ryan Groden book on here since I didn't include Wolf by Wolf, but this is a really cool time travel story. It is following a character who shouldn't really exist. He was born outside of space and time, and you are traveling through space and time, and it's just very interesting, a super vibrant story, and a lot of fun. Like, there's a lot going on. It is a whirlwind, but very enjoyable. Now, fantasy. Fantasy is another one like contemporary. I feel like I could have divided this into urban fantasy and high fantasy, but I decided to just tackle it as a whole. With sci-fi, I didn't even consider the fact that you have like utopias and dystopias, so like Scythe and the Hunger Games and all of that. Oh, Warcross, I forgot about that one. Oh, there's so many options. Okay. I'm going to amend my original answer. So instead of Invictus, I would include Warcross by Maria Liu, because this was such a cool world. Like, this virtual reality game totally takes over. It's just very interesting, but I didn't think I would have that much trouble with sci-fi, but I did. But we're just going to forget about utopias and dystopias and all of that, because that is just going to be way too much for my tiny little brain to handle. So for my 3 fantasies, I do actually have one of them packed still right now, but that is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. I love this series, but I haven't finished with it yet. Like, I am so far behind on it, but the first book did really blow me away. It's this very interesting Roman Empire, brutal brutal fantasy world and you're following two different characters, and it actually gave me nightmares. Like, it was so well described. It was amazing. But you're following these two characters who are coming from very different sides of things and they have to kind of team up. It's just, there's a lot happening, but it is very great. Then of course, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I couldn't not have this book. I love Leigh Bardugo and I particularly love the crows. They have such a, like, they're right in my heart and I love them so much. So definitely Six of Crows. Really out of the two, Crooked Kingdom is my favorite, but we'll just go with Six of Crows. And the final fantasy that I would keep is Raybearer by Jordan Ife Waco. I've talked about this book quite a bit this year, but it totally blew me away. The world is amazing and it's very unique and inventive, and everything about the characters and everything about the story completely sucked me in, and I just absolutely loved it. So this one would definitely find its way into my collection as well, but that was also just really hard. There's too many fantasies that I love. I did decide to separate fantasy from retellings because I have a lot of retellings that I loved and I felt like it deserved its own separate category. So now I will pick my 3 retellings that I would keep in my collection even if I weren't a booktuber. First of all, I will get Heartless by Marissa Meyer out of the way. This is an Alice in Wonderland retelling that I truly love, so definitely would have to keep this one. It is the backstory of the Queen of Hearts, so you're finding out how she becomes the Queen of Hearts, and it's just so good. And the other 2 that I picked are The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale, which is a retelling of The Goose Girl. This whole series is just retelling random, kind of obscure Grimm's fairy tales, which is very interesting. It's a really kind of older style fantasy, I feel like, but I really love this series. And then the final retelling I would pick is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. This is a retelling of 12 Dancing Princesses, and kind of surprises me that I would have this on here because it doesn't seem like something I would enjoy, but I really did. It's a horror retelling of it, so it definitely did have me spooked many times, but it was also very interesting and unlike anything I'd ever really read before, which I think is why it totally hooked me and I would definitely keep it. I was going to also include mysteries, but honestly I couldn't really think of 3. The only one that I can think of is Sadie by Courtney Summers, and other than that, the mysteries that I've enjoyed are also another genre, so just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to leave it at that. So this was such a hard video to film, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, honestly, as hard as it was. It was an interesting challenge. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in a new video soon. Bye!